McNair gives it to George, running right up the middle. Touchdown! Titans! There are no flags on the field! It's a miracle!
Safety, now you're one-on-one with it.
Shows why he's the man! In trouble. Sack!
Ladies and gentlemen, Titan Nation, welcome back to another episode. Today, I have a special guest, offensive guard from the Tennessee Titans. We have Andy Levitre here in person. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Alex. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. You didn't play too much with the Titans. You only had 1 year, but you were very effective. Your career in total, played with the Bills, Titans, played in the Super Bowl with the Falcons. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
You know, um, through your tender in the NFL, what would be your maybe its biggest highlight? And you can go from like each team, like with the Bills, the biggest highlight, Titans, and then the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean there was great things about each team I was able to play with, and so obviously starting with the Bills, which was where I was drafted. The community there, man, like Bills Mafia was starting to get stacked when I was there, and they're stronger than ever these days. So it's cool to see how that's kind of formed over the years. And although record-wise we didn't do well when I was there, we were competitive. We had a good team, I felt really confident in our abilities when I was there. But man, I mean, just going back there, my wife's from Buffalo, so we still go back there, and it's always cool. I mean, it's just a lot of diehards there, so it's a fun football atmosphere to be in. And then, going to Nashville, my wife and I, honestly, when we first came here, didn't know anything about Tennessee, Nashville. I mean, knew about it, but didn't really know like much about the city or the,
Mhm.
the state, and what there was to offer here. And although we were supposed to be here for a lot longer than we were, we did just like fall in love with the city. Such a great town, good people here. And we obviously, well, now we live here full time. So, we did enjoy it enough and loved it enough to make Nashville home. So, I think that's speaks a lot about how we feel about Nashville. Um,
Not the first player to say that though. That's the crazy part. A lot of
yeah.
people are like, yeah, we get here, and then you're like, Dexter McCluster is another person that he was like, I did not expect to be living here as long as I did. Like it's just, and it's what is it about Nashville? Because maybe I need to go down there again. I'm like, I don't
It's
know what
just
it is, man.
I don't know. Like, I grew up in the forest, so there's a lot of trees here too, which kind of reminds me of home. And I think you just get like such a diverse kind of topography here. It's mountainous. You can get rolling hills. The weather, you get all the weather. So and the people here are great too. So I don't know. I guess I'd be curious how everybody else feels, but that's kind of how I felt.
Okay.
Good schools for the kids.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, and like I said, my wife and I really enjoyed the time we were here, and the energy here. There's a lot of growth happening here right now, and it's cool to be a part of it and see all the new things that Nashville's bringing in, and the city seems to be staying on top of keeping the excitement here, which is it's a
Keep
fun atmosphere to be around.
right. It just keeps
Yeah,
growing. Keep
yeah,
growing. It's wild. Again,
yeah.
this.
And then yeah, Atlanta, man. I mean. The big thing there for me was the organization. I mean, I got traded there, so I mean, I don't know if I really had a say in the matter,
Mhm.
but that situation ended up working out for me better than I could have ever expected to. Obviously, going to the Super Bowl and the success that we had when I was there, but even the organization as a whole was just a great. I mean, from Arthur Blank down,
Mhm.
management and all that, just really good people to be around. I really have a lot of respect for that organization and what they do over there. And it's a very established area as well. So,
Okay.
um, you know, Atlanta's like, I don't know. I think they're like, from an airport standpoint, they're like the busiest airport in the world or something, from what I heard.
Yeah, they're top three. I think you might be right. I think Denver might be the first one, but that the second one.
Okay.
I work in the airport. I work in DFW, so I know I
Okay.
know
Oh
about.
yeah, you would know better than me. That's just hearsay for me. So,
No, but
uh,
it's true. You're right on that one. Atlanta is
yeah.
wild.
Yeah, so my wife and I really enjoyed our time there. Obviously, it helps winning a lot of football games, so that was great. Had a lot of close friends there. From a football standpoint, I felt like that was kind of the pinnacle of being on a team there. It also had so much fun there. Dan Quinn made it such a fun atmosphere to play football. I felt like I was in high school again playing with the boys, man, and just having fun and you were serious when you needed to be, but you could also, you weren't it wasn't frowned upon to enjoy yourself, which was nice.
Nice, nice. Now let's talk a little bit. Let's go back and talk about growing up. You're a Cali guy, right? You said
Yeah.
been around trees. Uh, how was it? No pun intended. How was growing up in California? And what part?
I grew up in a little town called Ben Lomond. It's in the Redwood Mountains, kind of
Okay.
Central Coast, probably about 20 minutes inland from Santa Cruz, which is probably the bigger city of the area. Still smaller than most, but and that's kind of situated between San Francisco and Monterey. So yeah, I grew up in like a really kind of a mountain town, I'd say, with a lot of redwood trees. Had a creek running in my backyard, so
Nice.
probably a lot different than most people would think of when they think of California. But
Yep.
it was good. I had four brothers, which kind of were all scattered now. But yeah, we had a big household, lots of boys. My older brother kind of started playing football when he was young, or when he was, I guess, in high school, and then kind of got me rolling. That's when I started too. I just kind of saw him doing it, and I thought I'd give it a shot, and kind of took off from there.
Definitely. Was hunting or anything like that part of your resume back in the day, or no, you didn't do any of that? I mean,
Not when I was a kid. Well, let me take that back.
like,
I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a lot. I probably went out once or twice with my dad, like,
okay,
bird hunting, and I don't think I got my first deer until I was a buffalo when I got my first deer.
really
Yeah. So,
nice.
um, yeah, I guess I wouldn't say it was like a huge part of my life, but
Mhm.
I'd say more so now than it was then.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Talk about that because that's something I'm always curious.
Something
But
you're passionate about?
yeah, man. Now talking about sports, football was your first introduction, your first love, or you said your older brother played it and then you kind of followed in his footsteps, or
Yeah, man, football wasn't like I wasn't like a little kid growing up, like always aspiring to be an
yeah.
athlete. I was actually really out of shape, but really big. I actually weighed like 340 when I was a sophomore or a junior in high school. So I was a big dude. I just ate a lot and didn't really exercise. So it was kind of eye-opening to me I guess I had like a aha moment in high school where uh, I guess I moved well for as big as I was at 340 pounds. And so I remember people talking to me, coaches, players, like teammates, and saying, "Man, you move really well for how big you are. You could go like D1." I'm like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
let's look into that." So uh, I was like, "All right, well, I got to kind of lean up here." So I had somebody help me kind of trim some weight, um, and build what do you call it, a regimented workout and things like that. So I was able to drop some weight, become more athletic, and got an opportunity to play the next level. I actually have a funny story here. Is I didn't That area that I grew up in wasn't really recruited very highly. So back in the day, we had the VHS tapes. So I took two VHS players and plugged them in together and made my own VHS highlight tape. And my grandfather helped me uh, look, or he basically paid for the postage stamps
Uh-huh.
and the mailers, the bubble mailers. And I went online and researched probably like 80 to 100 Division One schools and sent my VHS tape to every Division One college football program.
Mhm.
And I mean, I got letters back saying, "Hey, thanks for sending this. Sorry," and they'd actually send me my
Take
VHS tape back, which I was like, "Well, that was nice of you to at least send it back."
Yeah.
But anyways, out of that, I ended up getting a scholarship offer from um, LSU,
Okay.
which Nick Saban was the head coach there at the time. I think it was like January or February of '03, which they had just won the '02 national championship.
Right.
And so he offered me a scholarship, which kind of steamrolled into a couple other offers there. So yeah, I was kind of taken back by that. I thought that was pretty cool, especially for the success that he's had as a coach. Cool to see that he saw something in me that could maybe go to the next level with. So, anyways, long story short, that situation, obviously I went to Oregon State, so I went to go commit there to LSU, and they were like, "Hey, we already got our commits, but you could be like a preferred walk-on." And so, from a financial standpoint, I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that."
Mhm.
So, a couple other offers. I ended up feeling like Oregon State was the best situation for me, since that situation didn't work out. And man, I mean, from a college football standpoint, the rest is history. I mean, a lot of things at Oregon State fell into place for me too that really helped me um, further my career. Coaches they came in and helped put me in the right place. Really fortunate to have some of the people around me that I did that to kind of help me with the mindset of what it is to be an offensive lineman, how to approach the game, things of that nature.
Was there any coach that kind of comes up to mind that you kind of, there's always one coach or two coaches that you kind of remember. Is there anyone that propelled you and helped you to become successful in your career?
Yeah, so that coach that came in my freshman year, I had an offensive line coach. His name was Jim Gilstrap, and he was an older guy, super nice guy. And then some of the guys that came in at the same class of me were from Hawaii, and they started saying, "Oh man, I heard they're bringing in Mike Kavanaugh," and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be like he's awesome. It's going to be unreal if he comes." So he ended up coming. How to see things. Um, and then, I owe a lot to him to he kind of gave me that, but he definitely opened the door for me to make that move. So I'm very appreciative and grateful for him. And he just actually came back to Oregon State this year to be the O-line coach again. So
Nice.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do there.
That's cool. And do you by any chance go back and visit the campus or anything like that or no?
Yeah, I didn't go back much while I was playing,
Mhm.
but after my career, I got to take my wife and kids back there for the first time, and then started to try and do an annual trip with some of my old roommates from college. So
Mhm.
we all played ball together. So we try and catch one game a year at least to get together and catch up.
How does it feel to be back in that stadium knowing so much history, so much, of your effort and blood, sweat, and tears went into, playing every day and, every weekend in that game, that stadium?
It's cool, man. They just redid some of the stadiums, so just to kind of see the growth of Research Stadium and what's going on in Corvallis. It's very nostalgic to go back to the college campus. Um, but it brings back some good memories, man. I mean, driving past the dorms and just thinking, every time I drive around there, I always think of something that happened in college where, going out with some buddies or, being in the dorms and stuff like that. So, um, it's cool. It's a good feeling, and it's awesome to see where that program is
How
headed. I think they're making a lot of moves here that look like it's going to be heading upwards again, which is great.
definitely. Was there anything other than football that you wanted to do? Say if football didn't work out, what was going to be your backup plan, if anything?
I got a degree, actually got two degrees in college, one in finance and one in sociology. So my thought was probably to get into the financial world. And thankfully, I mean, not thankfully, I still feel like I want to go use that, but it's been 10, 15 years since I got my degree. So I haven't had to use it at the capacity that I probably would have if I didn't make it as far in my career in football. But um, man, I guess I just spent a lot of time training, a lot of time trying to better myself as a player, finding ways, putting in some extra time and things like that. So thankfully, a lot of that paid off for me in the long run.
Definitely. Now let's talk about draft day, getting picked up second round by the Bills. Um, how was that? You said that your wife is from Buffalo. I mean, it
Mhm.
kind of worked out, right?
Yeah, I know, man. It was pretty wild. I think, if I recall correctly, Dallas was on the clock and the Bills traded up to get me.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was exciting. I mean, I hadn't been to Buffalo. I had some family ties out there,
Okay.
but I'd never been out there. So it was great, man. It was a great experience. And although we didn't win as much as we had hoped, I still really enjoyed my time out there. We had a tight group of teammates out there too, so it was a good run.
Definitely. Now let's talk about the meat of this conversation, right? Let's talk about the Tennessee Titans, the 2013 Tennessee Titans. What'd you think of the organization when you got there? What'd you think of the Titans in general as a team, player wise, and who was in the building as players for you?
Yeah, there was a lot of it seemed like a very established team when I came in the locker room. From my recollection, there's a lot of elder players, so we had a lot of experience on the team. Um, I just felt like I can't remember if from a management standpoint, if that was when Bud Adams had just passed away.
It was
Um,
2013, right? So he might have passed away. Let's Google this real quick.
sure.
Yes, why not? It's the beauty of all right. Bud Adams passed away October 21st of 2013. So yeah, you might be right on
Okay, so it was that season. So yeah, it just
that.
I guess the majority of my time there kind of felt like there was a lot of things up in the air from a management standpoint. I told you like when I was in Atlanta, it was like the organization was amazing. Not to say that the Titans were not, but there was
I
just a
get
lot
where
of things going on.
I get where you're coming from though.
Yeah, upstairs that like you could just I don't know if it kind of trickled down into the locker room where there's a lot of uncertainty and as to what was going to happen there. So, but man, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in Nashville playing for the Titans. I was supposed to be here for 6 years, and so my wife and I were kind of caught off guard when that got cut extremely short. I guess somewhat caught off guard, but not really. Just um, from a performance standpoint, I was battling a lot of injuries. So, uh, if you're not performing at a high level consistently, it totally, from a business standpoint, makes sense to me. So, obviously have no hard feelings there. Just you know, was an unfortunate circumstance given my situation. So yeah, so kind of I think from when I walked in the door until I left, I was battling some injuries. It was one after the next, and so trying to be out there every Sunday and performing at a high level, but not really at a high level because I felt like my potential wasn't being reached there.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, inevitably the team made a decision to trade me to Atlanta. But as I could tell you, my wife and I moved back here because we just really loved it so much. So just the whole football situation didn't work out as well as I had suspected.
Through the course of your Titans career, uh, what injuries were there? I know you were battling a couple of them. I know that for sure.
Yeah, I was coming back from a knee surgery my last year in Buffalo.
Okay.
So kind of when I signed as a free agent, I was in the middle of rehabbing a knee surgery, and then I tore my labrum in my hip my second season, and then at the or sorry, I tore my hip or my labrum during my first season, like throughout the season. So had surgery after the season, rehab that during the off season, and then in my second season, I had torn my labrum in my shoulder,
Mhm.
and we were going back and forth on whether I wanted to have surgery, and it was kind of like, well, I've had surgery the last 2 years, so I've been pretty limited, and it wasn't bothering me enough to the point where I was like, I need surgery on it now, otherwise I can't play. I just kind of like just gotta play through it essentially.
Mhm.
Uh, so I opted to skip surgery and then went into my third season, which I got traded to Atlanta right after at the end of training camp there.
Gotcha.
Or end of it was a little shorter journey than I was hoping for, but like I said, from a business standpoint, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
being one of the top paid guards, you're expected to perform at a certain level, and not doing that year in and year out, I could see why they had to make that move.
Now, is there any pressure on the player? Like, how does that work with injury wise? Is the coach talking to you every other week, seeing what's the plan, where to go with the player? Or is it kind of like, hey, the player kind of checks in on the coach and like says to the coach, like, hey, I think I'm good, this and that. How does that work? And how much pressure is that on, like you said, like on a player that they expect to be out there knowing that, you have a contract and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the coach will check on you, and they'll probably also go to the training room and check to see how things are going in there. And I've always been my whole career, whether it was high school, college, or pros, is just putting in the work, right? Like outworking people. So I put in my time. I made sure I did as much as I can to be the best of myself as I could. And sometimes your body just doesn't respond the same way. So, um, I was in there rehabbing all the time, uh, doing whatever I needed to do to feel my best. But time will always, time doesn't wait for anybody, I guess. So, you just had to kind of wait it out until things started feeling better.
Did you feel any pressure from the coaches by any chance with that, like in Tennessee, or no?
I wouldn't say directly until around the time where I got traded. I mean, it was like during training camp slash preseason was when of my last season with the Titans, or my third season, I guess it would have been. They started kind of moving people around on the offensive line, which I was one of those people that got moved around. So you kind of see the writing on the
Yeah,
wall, you know?
well, that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, did you kind of see it coming? Like, well, what were kind of like the little like red flags? Like, okay, they're starting to move people around, trying to figure out the offensive line. Like, what was
Yeah, so like I think we had a center that was injured during train or during spring ball, so they moved me to center to play center, which I've tried center. It's a tough job, man. Like having no center background, but I'm not one to turn the challenge away, so I just bite my lip, go do my what I got to do. Um, so that's giving other guys reps at guard, and then we get into the training camp. We played the first preseason game, which was against the Falcons, actually, and I think I gave up a sack. And so we come into meetings the next week for practice, and then it was kind of like, Andy, you're like the third string guard, and then you're like, or they didn't even tell me. The way I found out was they put the depth chart basically on a projection screen, and they're like, this is the rotation today. And
Uh,
then I'm like, oh, okay. I thought maybe as a one-off, like, okay, maybe they're just like resting guys, whatever.
mhm,
The next day. So I obviously got a little frustrated and had some conversations with some of the coaches. Um, I didn't agree with the way that it was handled,
mhm.
but again, I could see the writing on the wall. So I had to kind of make plans for my departure there. So it was probably either getting traded or getting cut at that point. So it ended up working out really well.
Gotcha. Who was by any chance coaching staff wise on that Titans team was who was kind of your favorite coach and why?
Man, I mean, the coaches that brought me in there was Munchak and Bruce. They were awesome, man. Good people to be around. What's up, bud?
Say hi.
How's it going?
All right. All right. Go over there. They have to be they make
That's all.
every single player I've had on the show because they can't. I'm like I said, I'm in my garage, man, and they find a way of coming in and making some havoc.
Oh, here we go. Gotta make a cameo. What's up?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
you a
just
ninja?
yeah, you just gotta kind of ignore them but keep going.
Oh, it's all good.
how it works, man.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, I
but,
enjoyed the staff that was there initially that brought me in, but they got fired after my first season there, so that didn't last very long. And then the
yeah,
other staff that came
right?
in, what's that?
You had Hunt after, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh,
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh,
I
yeah,
mean, obviously it didn't go well there, so
absolutely.
is what it is. I moved on. No hard feelings. Like I said, I wasn't performing at a high level, so I get that they had to make some moves. But I feel like for my career, it ended up being a blessing in disguise.
Definitely. I mean, you got to play again in the Super Bowl. Um,
Right.
talking about coaching styles and the team itself, how was the team like after Munchak left, Wizard had come? That's a whole different, offensive mind, change, everything in general. How's
hmm
like it's like almost like a first day of school, right? All over again, especially with the new coach.
Yeah. It was just it was definitely a different mentality
Mhm.
from Munchak's staff.
Oh,
Which I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd have to ask everybody on that team how they felt about it, but from my perspective, it just
it's like
seemed
the vibe from everyone in the locker room. How did it feel?
it almost felt a little disruptive in the locker room. I don't want to say finger pointing, but just having been in another locker room, I had two coaching staffs in Buffalo, and then Munchak my first year in Nashville. So I'd been around kind of three different staffs, and it just something didn't seem right the way that the culture was in there.
Definitely.
I don't know if I have the answer for it, but I could tell something was off.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess probably not a surprise that we didn't play as well as we could have because there was a lot of great guys, a lot of great players that were on that squad. I got to compete against some really good defensive linemen every day, and yeah, I don't think we were hitting on all cylinders for whatever reason.
Was there anyone that you got close to as friend wise in the Tennessee Titans group?
Chris Spencer.
Chris Spencer. Okay.
Yeah, me and him used to be neighbors, and
Nice.
we'd commute into the facility together for work, and yeah, it was. We still keep in touch. He's a good dude. We got to, our families got to know each other really well. So he's a good guy, and there's other guys like Roos, Eugene. Eugene and I kind of briefly crossed paths, but I still keep in touch with some of those guys every now and again.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah.
I have some before we get into things. Hey, you're gonna fall. Sit down. Get over there. You're gonna fall. Thank you. Um, want to talk a little bit about your favorite moment as a Tennessee Titan. And like I said, it could be a locker room joke, practice. Doesn't necessarily have to be a game. If you have a game or any memory like that, then go, so be it. But favorite Titan memory, man.
Hmm.
Crazy in the back. Yeah.
I have to think about that.
I feel bad.
I feel like we had.
You're gonna fall, buddy. Sit down. If not, we can always go back to that question. All right. I'm
I
not.
just got. It's been a while. I gotta think about.
Fun. It's
I
fun.
mean, it wasn't the Super Bowl, so that a little easier to come to mind. But man, I mean, I do have a lot of good memories being a Titan, but I don't know if they're. I mean, they might be boring to most people.
Fun, man. Like I said, we can always come back because I'm about to ask you a serious questions because again, I don't really get that many offensive guards. Can you get down, buddy? You're gonna fall. No? Okay. You put this on. Yes, I'm trying to put this on YouTube if you guys let me. All right, let's talk about this. Okay, I have a couple general experience and approach to your position, playing offensive guard. Okay. Um, First one is what aspects of the offensive line position do you enjoy the most?
what aspects of it? I enjoy the technical parts of it, putting all those things together, and then being able to adjust on the fly. Really like having to like snap your finger and make a change on the fly and being able to adapt and accomplish a goal. And I feel like that comes with experience and repetition. So I definitely felt more of that towards the end of my, later as my career went on. But, kind of being a rookie, you're kind of just like flailing like a fish out of water. At least that's what it seemed like to me. And then I was kind of able to settle in later, later in my career.
All right. What is your understanding of the importance of communication on the offensive line?
I think it's everything. I think a lot of defensive coordinators try and disrupt that, find ways to disrupt that. Uh, if you can get one guy to just have a split second of uncertainty,
Mhm.
I mean, that's enough time for somebody to make a play. So I think it's huge to have five guys on the same page, being able to communicate, talk to each other, hang out with each other, man. Like going out to dinner, having somebody over at the house, whatever. Like building relationships so that when you're out there, it's like second nature to just you guys are clicking. And that's some of the best offensive lines I've been on. That's the case. Everybody's
Just
tight together. They communicate well. It's like a family kind of feel.
gotcha. What was your biggest challenge as an offensive lineman?
Biggest challenge. Uh, I'd say like I know some coaches use this term, but like slowing the game down.
Okay.
Felt like early in my career I was kind of sporadic or like just wanting to like be quick for
Mhm.
whatever reason. I think there's a way to be quick but under control. And so trying to just like settle in and slow the game down a little bit. I feel like that's when you're able to um, make better decisions. You're more effective. It's funny. I'm doing some. I just started taking a jujitsu class. I've only been doing it for like about 2 months. No, not even 2 months. And I kind of see that same mantra as like if you're just trying to wrestle with somebody really fast, you're going to burn out and you're going to be exhausted and you're not going to be very effective. But if you're slow and controlled, You're a lot more effective. You can see things a lot better. So, anyways, yeah, I kind of saw that from an offensive line standpoint as well.
Especially someone that's on the ground, the more calm you are, the more effect you have, especially in jiu-jitsu. I did jiu-jitsu for a long time, and that's
Oh,
it's not the one that's in the guard going crazy. It's the one that's pretty calm and
yeah,
using, uh their body more for, different techniques. So it's crazy.
yeah,
That's jiu-jitsu is a hell of a workout, hell of a sport. Really good.
right.
Um what are some of your best qualities you thought bringing for the offensive line? What did you think? Was it the run blocking? Was it the pass protection? What kind of was your specialty?
I think I think earlier in my career, I was better at run blocking.
Hmm.
And then I feel like later in my career, pass protection, I feel like I've always had a pretty good punch, which shout out Mike Kavanaugh,
Hmm.
my my guy over at Oregon State for helping me. He always preached punching, and I was able to just over the years kind of try to perfect that craft. And I've always kind of taken pride in using that. And I feel like from the feedback I've gotten from other guys that I felt like I did a pretty good job doing that.
What was now for run blocking and pass protection? What would be your best advice to give someone that's an offensive lineman coming up from college? What would be your best advice to give them on both sides, run blocking and pass protection?
Pass protection is like a balance, like you got to just be balanced in your set. You don't want to be leaning, but you don't want to be too far back. You got to have this like happy medium. And you got to be under control, and you also have to be, you basically know how to use your hands to punch, but also, engaging your core to be under control kind of thing. Sounds easier than it is. It's definitely, you got to practice a lot to it's a, feel thing. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, it took me a long time to try and get that, but I feel like once I got it and became very confident in that, it was very effective for me. So, from a pass protection standpoint, that was kind of where I'm at. And then run blocking, I mean, it's kind of difficult because there's so many different variations of
Okay.
footwork for a run block, but either way, though, it's just running your feet, man. You gotta be running like hauling, getting your knee over your ankle so that you have leverage getting into guys and just running your feet and getting them out of the way. Just from a generic explanation, you can't just kind of get to the guy and sit there. So, yeah, I've always wanted to like essentially like pick somebody up and like move
Yeah.
them over here kind of thing is my grand scheme there, but obviously it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, definitely. Would be probably your biggest challenge going up against in the offensive line that you would play in your career? That you
Defense line or offensive line?
defensive line. Who
What
would
defensive line? Oh man, probably like Aaron Donald.
Oh yeah.
I mean, dude's just like a freak of nature, like just moves so smoothly. The way he operates, it's kind of like rolling in jujitsu, man. Like just he's just so smooth. Like he'll take what you give him.
Yeah.
He's always moving his feet, so he's not just going to sit there. He's going to be, getting to the point of attack every play, and so you got your work cut out for you. Good hand placement, knows leverage, knows how to get around guys. So I felt like I fared pretty well in pass protection against him, but in the run game, he just stalled me. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many good players I've gotten the opportunity to play against too. Like even practicing against like Jarrell Casey, like
Yeah.
just a really good player, knows leverage, knows how to get you off balance. So I have a ton of respect for a lot of guys, but those are just two guys that come to mind.
Now, when it comes to game planning and stuff like that for different teams, is there certain guys you kind of just watch? Or like you said, the whole defense in general. Like you said, look, when you went up against Aaron Donald, like is it something where you kind of focus like, okay, hey, when we're playing this defense, you just gotta have to watch out for this guy. Is it kind of like that, or how does that work out? Mhm.
Sometimes, I mean, it's more of a coaching thing to like game plan around the guy. Somebody who has a huge impact of the game,
That.
like Aaron Donald, they might game plan to like double team him most, depending on the play call. If the play call presents itself, they'll favor double teaming that guy instead of somebody else. But, you get a team that's got like a defensive end and an interior Pro Bowler.
Mhm.
You got your work cut out for you because they're going to put them on different sides, so you can't double team both of them. So, you still gotta come up and play. The mentality is always you gotta win one on one. So whether, if you get help, that's a bonus. But yeah, but then just watching guys, you watch the great players, see what they're doing, but you gotta watch kind of anybody that you're gonna be against and just kind of know what's coming at you. When I was watching film, it was always it's good to know what they do.
Hmm. Kind of like
I
tendencies and stuff.
Yeah, it's good to know, but you don't want to assume that that's what's going to happen when they get into a game. Like there's a chance that you're going to see whatever you're seeing on film, but I guess I came to the conclusion that it's not really whatever they're doing. It's you have to be your best self. Your technique that you've learned, that's what has to be on point. It doesn't really matter what they do. If your technique's good, like it should in theory beat them, but you know, playing with the level of competition in the NFL, you're gonna lose a couple snaps.
Of course. Yeah,
Whether you're playing a great game or not, and even those great players, they lose a couple snaps too. So it's just kind of like who can win more at the end of the day. So my thoughts always just been like, hey, it's good to know what they do, but at the end of the day, I gotta be my best self out there on Sunday.
definitely. And it's almost like a reset button because I had Michael Ruse on and that's what he said. He was kind of like, yeah, you're gonna have plays where they're gonna beat you and this and that, but like he's like, I can't worry about the last play, like the because the play clock's going. Like you just gotta
Yeah,
keep going and kind of adjust like that. And it was pretty good just listening to him and hearing how he took the game and how he approached it. And it makes sense. Like I get it because as fans we're like, well, don't you get hung up on like if your guy blows past you and you get they get a sack on you and like how do you feel? Like do you feel like upset? He's like, well, you just got to keep going, like on to the next play. Like it's
yeah,
trying to make up for it. So
right. Yeah, and I guess my thing too is like, yeah, say somebody gets you for a sack, you don't want to like overcompensate the next play and then give up another one, right? You got to like kind of reset, get back to what, maybe, you can kind of like self-critique yourself on the field, like, oh, I got overextended and the guy swam me or something. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out there and not, maybe like coach yourself up and say, hey, I'm not going to lean on this play.
okay.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, if you let it drag on, I mean, you'll just have a string of bad plays and then, you know, it's never good. It's never good.
Definitely. Let's talk about again, you got traded, went to
Mhm.
Atlanta. How was your time? Obviously, I believe that's where you peaked the most, right? That's where you everything kind of kind of like synced in and you went to the Super Bowl. What happened? All right, give me your iPad. Okay, well just play with them or put something on. Sorry.
No,
Uh
you're good.
your career kind of that's where it kind of came full force where I feel like that's where you played your best football. Is that correct in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'd say that was some of my best years were there.
Yeah.
The end of my years in Buffalo and those years in Atlanta were probably some of my best couple years.
Now, talk to me about the year you guys went to the Super Bowl, that team, just and then obviously talking about the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. So I came in 15. I got traded like at the end of preseason. So I mean, it was literally like I think we played the Thursday preseason game, the last game of the preseason. It's like Thursday,
Hmm.
and then you kind of have, I think you're off that weekend, and then you come in Monday, and you basically have your first regular season game. So we had the Thursday game, and I was still with the Titans. Friday, uh, we went to have it was like a light workout after the game. And I remember it was about noon. We were in the bubble, and they came up, and I already kind of knew that there was about to be a trade, or they were trying to force a trade there. But anyways, they came in and they were like, "Hey, you need to go talk to the GM. Whatever, go talk to the GM." They're like, "Hey, we're sending you down to Atlanta. It's going to be a good situation for you." So I was like, "All right." So I literally got
That's
on the
gonna
phone.
have to be a crappy feeling, right? Like just like you have everything. I've seen Hard Knocks and stuff, but still, I can't fathom like the situation where they're like, "Hey, it's gonna be a good situation." I'd be like, "Well, no, I have to like move everything." Like, yeah, you think it is, not me. Like that's kind of
Right.
in the ass, right?
Yeah. I mean, there were some games being played with me, like the last preseason game.
Hmm.
They were going to start me. Usually, like the young guys play the last preseason game, and
Uh-huh.
the starters kind of sit out or maybe play like one series and they're out or something. Well, they were going to start me for the whole game, basically, and I was going into year six, seven.
Oh,
No, that would have been seven. Yeah, year seven. So they were going to make me play the whole last game, and they were going to sit all the starters, whatever. Well, the trade situation came up, and they couldn't afford to have me hurt because they would have been on the hook contractually, I'm guessing,
hmm.
for whatever. So they basically suited me up, and then they were like, "Ah, you're not going to play." So I just sat on the sideline in my uniform. And anyways, I got so the next day we're at the workout. I get they get the phone call. They come down and get me. They're like, "Hey, we're shipping you out to Atlanta." Atlanta's like, "Hey, can you be down here tonight? It's already like 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon." I was like, okay." So my my wife and I had just gotten married actually that summer. So it was kind of like, all right, I gotta go to Atlanta. So I drove home, packed a suitcase, drove. Luckily, Atlanta's pretty close. So drove down to Atlanta that night, had a physical at like 9 o'clock at night. And then so that would have been Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, I was in meetings all day learning the playbook. Come out Monday, we have like a little practice. Tuesday's a day off, so I'm back in there meeting. And then Wednesday through the rest of the week is all a normal game prep because we have a Sunday game. I think it was a Sunday night game or something against Philly, maybe. Um, so yeah, I just remember having to learn the whole playbook basically in like a little over a week, like 9 days.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, which was, I guess I'm thankful that I was further along in my career, so it's a little easier to understand.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
question, right? Like, are they kind of similar? Each team has different, like, I guess, like sayings or different
yeah,
verbiage, right?
yeah, it's just different. Some plays have different nuances, but yes, a lot of verbiage is different. There is plays that have some carryover. I mean, being in enough offensive systems, eventually you get somebody that has the same terms as some other coach, or at least a couple similar terms. But it's also like, this term in this offense means one thing, but that same term in this offense means something totally different. So you got to like be able to decipher that, which is a little bit of a challenge on the front end, but not too bad. Um, yeah. So, anyways, got to Atlanta. That first year kind of felt like I was feeling my way around a little bit. We ended up just a little bit short of the playoffs. And something about that 2016 year, man, I'll never forget that year. It was very special. It just felt like everything was like hitting on all cylinders, and I felt settled in. My body finally felt good for the first time in however many years. Um, we were having so much fun in training camp. Uh, I just and then like the season came around, it just felt like we could score whenever we touched the ball, which was so cool. Never really been on a team. Maybe my last year in Buffalo,
Hmm.
like probably the closest thing to that,
Hmm.
where we felt like things were hitting on all cylinders. And yeah, man, it carried us up to the Super Bowl, and it's definitely some of the most fun I've ever had playing football. I felt like I was in high school again and like playing with some of my boys and just having a good time, able to lock in and get the work done, but still just able to have fun too, which a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot nowadays, but you know, a lot of my career, there was a lot of coaches that were like old school and
Yeah, kind of.
just like work you to the bone, which, I benefited from in some ways, but it's just a lot, it's a grind going through a season. So to be able to laugh and have some
Have fun.
fun really helps the time pass. So yeah, anyways, we made it to Super Bowl. My daughter was actually born uh, after we beat Seattle in the second round of the playoffs. We had the first round bye, so second round of the playoffs. And then we beat Green Bay in the championship. And then yeah, man, that Super Bowl was obviously a bummer.
Yeah. But a lot of people can't even say that they've ever played in a Super Bowl. So you got to feel
Yeah, I
so.
know. Oh, and I mean, that was the first sniff I've even had. I hadn't even been to the playoffs up until that season, so I totally respect the fact that we made it there. Uh, um, losing in the fashion we did, no fun. People like to bring it up all the time. Great experience and something I'll always be able to talk to my kids about. But it's sometimes it's not always about winning too. It's kind of what you learn from the situation. So being resilient, things of that nature are some good life lessons to learn from that. And yeah, I was kind of lucky too that my daughter was born right before. So after that game, I was able to come home to be a dad for the first time. So that helped kind of take my mind off of that game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Question. Again, I've seen this a lot with offensive linemen. So Michael Ruse, see with Taylor Lewan,
Mhm.
once they're out of the league, man, you guys slim up so much. It's crazy. You look like another person. Like look at your neck, man. Look, like that is crazy. Like that is you. Like how the hell? Like what happens? Like what do you guys do during the season compared to like now? Like you guys slim up so much.
Yeah,
Not a
I
bad
mean,
look, by the way. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you guys look bad. It's
no, I don't know.
crazy, you know?
Yeah, man, like I told you earlier, I was a big dude when I was in high school,
Mhm.
so I've carried a lot of weight for a long time, and so I kind of when I retired, I was at home taking care of my kids and
Mhm.
um, kind of just focusing on my health. Really, I spent a lot of time trying to dial in, doing lab work and seeing what levels are off, how I can improve those to just be my healthiest self.
Mhm.
Just beating myself up in football for so many years, that does a toll on your body. So now, my thought is now I spend some time to take care of myself so that I can be around for my kids. Um, so man, a lot of fasting. I did keto,
Okay.
working out.
Do they keep you at a certain like a weight that you want it for football for like offensive linemen or no?
Yeah, I mean, they would tell me usually around 305 is what I played most of my career at, give or take some, just fluctuations during city or during the season. But
Okay.
I was always pretty good at maintaining weight. I don't think it was ever really an issue for me. I don't think I ever had to stress about getting fined for being overweight or underweight. So
Okay.
uh, I felt pretty good about that, but it's just more of like now that you're done, you don't really need to carry that kind of weight around. But along with some of losing that weight is I lost a lot of strength too. So, the competitor in me always wants to try and push myself, but I know that I compete, but just not at the same level I competed at when I was playing football.
No, man, but like I said, it's like I said, it's a crazy transformation just seeing all the like I said, Michael Ruse is like then I'm like, oh man, and Taylor Lewan, you, I'm like,
Yeah,
how the hell these guys do that? Like, I never
yeah.
even played football and I need to get on their level. But
I was doing these like 72-hour fasts like every other weekend for a while. So I would just drink water for 3 days straight, just trying to flush whatever out of my body as I could.
I did a 3-day fast and I just drank water and I was the meanest person on earth. Like I did not.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. Everyone's like, yeah, don't ever do that again. Like I need to eat. Like it was bad, man. I was like,
They say it gives you mental clarity, but I'm in the
it
same boat as
does.
you.
Apparently it does. Like by the second day, they're like, the second day is the hardest. The third day is the breeze. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like this was not fun. Like I did it, and I'm glad. Like I know I could do that eventually, but I don't want to do that again. Like I'd rather just work out, man. Like
Yeah, I know, right?
forget.
My sometimes if we could like travel on a plane, I'll
Uh,
just like my wife will get if we have a long flight, like cross country flight, I'll be like, hey, we'll like bring lunch on the plane. I'll just go to my wife and be like, I'm just gonna fast until we get there, and then I'll figure it out. Like not eat the whole day. And
uh,
she hated it because she's like, you're always so grumpy when you're fasting. So
it's,
especially when we're traveling, we got two kids, all this luggage.
yeah,
She's like,
man.
I don't want you fasting.
It's a different animal, man. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, before I let you go, I want to say I appreciate you coming on and talking to me about your career. Even though, like I said, you didn't play so long with the Tennessee Titans, we still care and love you, and we appreciate the blood, sweat, and tears that you gave for us. Again, putting that uniform on, you're always going to be a Titans, even though you did have better times and you played in the Super Bowl with the Falcons. Tennessee Titan, man. But
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I was thankful for the opportunity to play here for the Titans, and uh, man, I'm just glad I got to experience, Nashville too, because it's home for me now. So it's full circle. So much appreciations of the Titans organization for giving me that opportunity, although it didn't work out the way we all hoped it would.
well, that's all right, man. But we appreciate you and thank you so much, man. All right. God
I
bless.
appreciate
Tighten
it.
up, bro.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.